Hey guys, it's Tahira and today I'm doing my worst books of the year. So I read a total of about 40 books. I think I'll get to 40. I'm on my last book of the year, so I think I'll hit 40. But out of those 40 books, I only have about 4 that are like considered like super worst reads, which I guess I didn't read that much. But today I'll be talking about 4 that I just really did not enjoy at all, or were like big disappointments in some way, or just overall hated. Also, most of these books I got from the library, which is a great thing because I don't own any books that like I really hated, which is great. But yeah, a lot of these books I'm just gonna be talking about like not too much in depth because I read it quite a while ago. Except the last one I just finished last night and I really did not enjoy it. I will be getting to that later though. Anyways, I'm just gonna get started. But the first one is A Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. Also, not all of these books are 1 stars, but this one was a 1 star for me. This one follows like these group of like young people who like one of them invites another one over to Rome for some reason, and then the other one is like having relationship issues, gets into like a new relationship, has issues with her love life, and all of them are kind of a friend group that they kind of keep in touch and their lives kind of intertwine in some ways. I know Sally Rooney is such a popular author, and her book Normal People was something that I always had my eye on for a while, and then I went to the library and I saw Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney, so I decided to pick that one up just to see if I like the author, and I don't. I don't know, it felt very like for some reason I was very confused throughout the book about what was really happening, and a lot of it was just like pseudo-philosophical deep things that like I had no interest in. Basically, I thought this book was pretentious, and I just do not enjoy pretentious books in general. Like books that like try to take themselves too seriously or have like too like deep and philosophical musings, I guess, is something that I'm not really into. That's why I didn't really like Circe. I thought that was a bit pretentious as well. But yeah, overall I just thought it was too pretentious, too many pseudo deep like fake philosophical shit, and then just like really boring story and boring characters that I really did not care for. The next one I read is a book that I read for the Literally Dead book club. I always say that wrong. I always say literary. But this one is a book club hosted by another booktuber, Books and Lala, which I joined this year in hopes of like trying to expand my reading a little bit and to read genres that I normally because that book club is focused on mystery, thriller, and horror novels, which is something that I don't really find myself reading a lot, especially horror. I have been reading a few mystery thrillers here and there, so I just decided to join as a way to read some books that I normally wouldn't. So I joined it, and then the first book that I read for it, which I gave like 2 stars I think, was A Twisted Love Story by Samantha Downing. It's great that the first book I read for this book club is a book that I did not like, but it's fine. I'll be trying more books in 2024. But this one follows this couple, Wes and Ivy, who are an extremely toxic couple who are kind of on again, off again, and they have a lot of like toxic behaviors and shenanigans that they've been in throughout their life. And then one night they accidentally kill someone, and they're trying to like cover it up and everything, and then it's kind of just showing their lives, and then their lives in the people around them and how they're affected as well. One thing I did not like about this book is that every single person in this book is toxic in some way. There is no one that is a good person in any way. There is no one that has any good intentions. Everyone's trying to do something for themselves, for their own gain, and it causes people to do like bad things and annoying things, which I just did not like. Like there was no one to really root for in this book, which I kind of get is like the point, because like doesn't always have to be a good person, but I felt like there needed to be some glimmer of hope there somewhere. But it was just people being toxic, people being secretive, people hiding things from other people. It was just a lot going on in that regard. I will say that this book is very fast paced, and the text was quite big on the page, so it made for a very fast read, which I liked because I didn't like it, but it was at least like fast to get through, and it was like a fast paced novel. But other than that, it was just like not very interesting, not much happened. After a while it kind of got boring because like you already knew that everyone was toxic, so the same things kind of just kept happening again and again. And then the ending was something that I did not like at all. I don't know, just the way that it ended, I can't really go that much into it because it would be spoilery, but just know that the ending was not something I was not a fan of. Anyways, yeah, so I didn't give it like 1 star, so it's not the worst book I've ever read, but overall, like compared to all the other books I read this year, was definitely on the lower end. Then a book I read pretty recently that I just was kind of shocked at how much I didn't like it, but that is Book of Night by Holly Black. This one is about a girl named Charlie, and she lives in a world where people have the ability to manipulate shadows, something like that, and something happens. I don't even know what happens in this book. There's like some heist, she has to pull off some heist of stealing a book from somewhere, I don't know, something like that. This book, I never got into it, and it felt like the longest book ever, even though this is a fantasy book that's barely above 300 pages. Like, it just hits the 300 page mark, which is like very short for a introductory fantasy novel, at least. Like, a first book in a series, and if it's fantasy, usually like there should be a lot of time spending world building with the world and the magic system, but this one was barely 300 pages and it felt like it was taking forever to read. The characters were also very boring to me. I did not really find any interest in them, and one thing was that I could not for the life of me figure out what the difference was between characters and then the relationships between them. I think it's because I started zoning out a bit when I was like not interested in the beginning, and so I kind of missed some of the connections made between characters and introductions made. So as I was reading later on, I was very confused as to who I was reading about and how they were connected to our main character. The magic system was also something that confused me. So the magic is like people can manipulate shadows in different ways, I guess, but I felt like it wasn't explained very well, and I also found myself very confused with how that worked. It got a little bit more clearer as the book went on and towards the ending, but just like in the beginning, I was just extremely confused as to what was really going on. I don't know, I felt like my overall feeling for this book is confusion, because I just did not know who I was reading about, what the characters were, what the story was, what the magic system was. Like, I just have no idea what's going on in this world and these characters, and it also felt slow because, like, to me, if it's a short book, I feel like it should be at least fast-paced, because you're like trying to introduce all this stuff that you normally would in longer pages in a shorter amount of time. But it felt like it did not feel like a 300 page book. I mean, I guess the ending was like kind of interesting, more interesting than the rest of the book, but this is definitely something I will not be continuing. I think this is a duology, so there's definitely a second book coming out sometime, but I don't think I'll be picking it up because I just did not enjoy Book of Night and I gave it 1 star. Then I have my saddest entry of this list, because I wanted to like this so badly and I was so excited for it to read it after I read the first one earlier this year. But that is none other than Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. So this is the second book to the Empyrean series, I think it's called, with the first one being Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing, as you probably know, it was one of the like most popular fantasy books that has come out this year, and it was a really it really hit it off with a lot of people. It became super popular. Everyone is talking about it, and I actually read Fourth Wing and I really actually loved it, and I actually included it in my best books of the year video, which came out last. It should have come out last before this video, but I really enjoyed Fourth Wing. I put it on my favorites list, so like I had a lot of fun reading it. It wasn't like the most unique and groundbreaking series, but I think that the hype around it was really fun. I haven't really seen that much hype for a book in a long time, and the way the ending of that book happened, I was just really excited to see where the story would go in Iron Flame. I literally finished this book last night at like 3 in the morning, and at that point I gave it like 2.5 to 3 stars on Goodreads, but I think this is more like a 2-star read for me because I think I was just trying to be generous. I don't know, it was just very disappointing. First of all, it was very slow, but then it'll be fast and then slow again. So the first like 250 pages of this was extremely like slow and dragging out and boring. It was kind of recapping a little bit of what happened in the previous book, but then a lot of it was just like character interactions and not really a lot happening. And then around the 250-ish page mark, it started becoming more fast-paced and interesting and more plot development, and then it got slow again, and then it didn't pick up until like near the end of the book. Like, this book is around 620 pages, which is decent size for a fantasy novel, nothing too crazy. I mean, it is long, but like I've read Sarah J Maas books that go up to 1,000 pages, so like for me this was like a pretty normal length for a sequel for a fantasy series, but it just felt so much longer. It took me so long to get through this book because it was just dragging out in a lot of ways. And honestly, I didn't even feel like picking it up. Like usually if it's a fast-paced, action-packed fantasy book, I want to pick it up to see what's happening next, but this one I honestly didn't even have the like extreme urge to pick it up. I just wanted to get through and finish it. One of the things I hated about this book is that I just like am so disappointed that I don't know why so much of the story was taken up with this, was that Violet and Xaden were kind of in this like love-hate relationship with each other. And I get this is a romantasy book, so I know like the romance is going to be a big part of it, but a lot of the book was just like it was not like the relationship was not like the relationship in the previous book. The previous book was more like they're meeting for the first time, their sparks are flying, like there was a lot more chemistry, but this time there's a lot of like secrets that are being hidden from each other. So like Violet is keeping things from Xaden, Xaden's keeping things from Violet, and that just causes the other person to like kind of resent them from keeping all these secrets from the other person. So then you have this weird state where Violet is either hating Xaden for keeping all these secrets from her or just pining after him, even though they only have to be apart for like a week. So basically what happens is Xaden is like sent as, he has a posting at like some outpost a while away, and Violet and Xaden's dragons are mated, so they have to like be together for a certain amount of time to like mate or whatever, I don't know. And then they live like far apart, so every week for like a couple of days they're given some time to fly to the other person, and they alternate, and so that they can be together, mate, and then go back. So basically between the weeks, like Violet would just be pining for Xaden and missing him, even though it's like just a week. But then she'd also be worrying about the danger of the world while also like pining for this boy that's she's gonna see in a few days. Like, I don't know, I just did not like that. Some of the writing and the dialogue, especially between Violet and Xaden, was kind of cringe. And my problem with this book is also that it reads and feels very much like YA, but it's adult. I would say the only adult part would be the sex scenes, but other than that it feels very much like a YA novel. I will say the latter half of the book got a little bit better, especially towards like the end, where obviously things start picking up, plot starts moving, and people were like revealing secrets, things like usually happen at the end of a book. And the ending was pretty interesting, I will say. It definitely higher the stakes a little bit, and I hope the author takes that to the advantage and it creates an explosive third book. I don't know how many books this series is supposed to be, but I hope it's better than this one. I will be continuing. I hope that also this was like it's bad because it was rushed, because I know the first book came out earlier this year, and I think she was probably trying to ride the hype and have this release pretty close to Fourth Wing so that it would keep like some of the excitement and the hype. But I know that a lot of people also got like misprints and mistakes that were happening in the book. So I think overall this was a very rushed production, which probably cut some down on like editing too. I felt like this book could have been way shorter than it actually was. A lot of stuff could have been cut out to really get to the meat of the story. So I'm hoping that the next book will have some more thought and care put into it, because I think this was very rushed, and because of that the story suffered in a lot of ways. I don't know, it was just an extreme disappointment, because Fourth Wing was like such an enjoyable novel. Like the fact that the first book is on my best books of the year and then this is on my worst books of the year is like so disappointing. But I am still interested in the story, so I will be continuing on with the third book, and hopefully that one's a lot better than this one. Anyways, I don't know how long I've been talking about Iron Flame, just because I had so much to say because I thought this book was such a disappointment. But yeah, that is it for all of the worst books of the year. I'm glad I didn't have that many. 4 out of 40 books, that's like about 10% of my books being like the worst reads of the year, which I guess isn't completely terrible. It means I enjoyed about 90% of the books that I read, which is pretty good. But yeah, let me know down below what is your worst book of the year, as of course I would love to know. But that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!